Hello and welcome to episode 53 of the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester, and tonight I'm joined by Birmingham Live's Wolves correspondent Alex Dickin, and of course my loyal midfield general, our club captain Nocky. Tonight, celebrating, talking, discussing, debating another fantastic win. This time at Southampton. So we're going to do a deep analysis of the Southampton game, take your questions, and look ahead to Bournemouth. Alex, you were covering the game for Birmingham Live as the Wolves correspondent on Saturday. Your initial take on the madness that was Southampton 1, Wolves 2.
Yeah, it was a crazy game, very different to the previous week when they beat Liverpool at a canter. Really, the game had everything, all the dramatic talking points. In the Mario Lemire red card changed the game completely in the first half. Yes, Wolves are 1-0 down already, but instantly it becomes a different game. They set up to play with 4 Sarabia and obviously Cunha up front, and the intent was there to dominate the ball and have the ball and keep possession and play that game. But as soon as they went 1-0 down, then went down to 10 men, that went out the window. So I really respect the changes Lopetegui made at half-time, recognised the situation and changed things accordingly, and it worked to treat second half. The second half performance was fantastic. I expected them to play on the counter-attack with the players they had, but they actually ended up dominating possession and creating more chances, and could have scored before João Gomes got the winning goal. So it was a completely different Wolves to the previous week, but they showed immense character, and that's the big thing that came through for me. The character Lopetegui has kind of managed to build in this team, and the team spirit is an absolute world away from what it was back in November, when players were effectively like kind of coasting through games and almost accepting defeats at times. The spirit they've got at the moment is fantastic, and long may it continue.
Alex, can we just get you to talk about the game for an hour? I really enjoyed that. Nocky, you obviously saw it from a different point of view. Alex was obviously doing his best not to hide his joy in the press box, but obviously you were there with me and Tyler. Your view from the away end, Nocky.
Yeah, I didn't understand the initial setup. I thought we got it wrong to start with. It seemed to really stifle us. I expected us to kind of make minimum changes, really, and try and do similar to what we did against Liverpool. I didn't really understand Moutinho coming in. It's not a decision I would have made, but I think he reacted to it really well. He made positive changes, and as Alex said, we managed to kind of dominate the second half, and I think we finished with more possession than they did, which should absolutely never happen when you're playing with 10 men. But I thought the performance was sticky first half. I thought we could have been a couple of goals down before they scored. We never really got going. I think it was probably 65, 70 minutes before you really saw us take control and dominate the game. But there's a great spirit there, and the way we reacted, after we conceded the goal, the way we reacted after losing a man, we just kept going. We kept that energy, we kept the work rate up, and even though we weren't dominating the game for large spells, we were still always in it, and we were always working. And while it's 1-0, you've always got a chance, haven't you? So I felt that the equalising goal was one of the most bizarre own goals I've ever seen, and the winner was an absolute piece of magic. So really enjoyable day. Similar in many ways to the Villa game of last season, when we just couldn't get going, we couldn't get active, and then suddenly we burst into life and we looked like a really, really good football team. And it was to get the win was absolutely massive. I think for both clubs to get that win was absolutely ginormous. So to do it in the way that we did, the manner we did, with the composure that we showed in the last sort of 10-15 minutes, I was really, really impressed with that. And Lopetegui takes all the credit really for the substitutions he made.
You are listening to and watching episode 53 of the Wolves Report with Birmingham Live Wolves correspondent Alex Dickin, Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester, just analysing the Southampton game and taking more joy from another fantastic performance. Alex, what is becoming a regular theme for me is the way Lopetegui can change a game. And we've become so used to managers, probably our last two managers, making late or later substitutions. Maybe one of them being a bit too stubborn. Maybe they're both stubborn. But this guy, he doesn't care what he has to change. Formation, he'll sub anybody. His main focus is on winning the game. There's no pride there whatsoever. I want to do the best for Wolverhampton Wanderers. And the way he can change a game from the bench is probably like I've never seen with any Wolves manager before.
That's the key, because, you know, as fans, we all sit there during a game. We can see the things that are going wrong, and we all have our own ideas over which players he wants to be brought on. And that has been the key thing with Lopetegui. He's made those changes so early. You know, he's admitted that he's got it wrong sometimes. I think of 2 occasions. I think Southampton, the team selection was wrong, and I also think Man City. Although I could see what he was trying to do in both games, especially the Man City one, by putting the faster, more powerful players up front. But, you know, he said he got that one wrong and changed it early at half-time. You know, he had to change on Saturday, but probably still got it wrong initially with the team selection. And like you said, Ryan, he wants to be the best Wolverhampton Wanderers. He wants to win football matches. He doesn't want to kind of stick to what he started with at the beginning of the game if it's not going right. You know, and that was probably one of the biggest criticisms of Bruno Lage. He did tend to wait to make those subs, and when he did make those subs, it'd be kind of unimaginative things that he'd do with, you know, straight for like winger swaps and things like that. And the other thing we must mention is that the squad is now so much stronger than it was before the start of the January transfer window. He's got 2 players for every position, not just 2 players for every position, 2 good and often different players for each position. Like, you know, we saw Reina, who's played fantastic against Liverpool, but Southampton, the way Wolves are going to set up in the second half, Bueno is a better defensive left back, and that worked as well. So as far as subs go, everything he touches does turn to old gold.
It's been incredible, hasn't it, Nocky? As Alex said, I mean, Alex has probably got a better count than we have, because I know we were a few Guinnesses to the wind on Saturday. But the amount of subs that are involved in goals almost every week or every other week is incredible. I've never seen anything like it. It's like we can all see in the game, or we could do with a change now. He's doing it before we thought it now. He's one step ahead. Well, he's an elite manager. So, but it is refreshing. And I feel like Wolves are very lucky to have Lopetegui.
Yeah, and I think Alex touched on it really. We've got that squad now. We've got a squad where we can impact games from the bench. And it's really refreshing to have a manager who will come out and say, I got that wrong. I absolutely love that from a manager. The last thing you want to hear is a manager making excuses and trying to explain why it went wrong and why it wasn't his fault. He just comes out and says, yeah, I got that wrong, so I made a change. That's exactly what I want to see from the manager. But he makes the right changes at the right time. I felt we were screaming out for a Costa or a Jimenez to go through the middle. We were really missing that kind of focal point. And as soon as Costa came on, it was a different game, and he brought Gomes on. We just seemed to find another gear, another level, and Southampton couldn't cope with us. So we're getting deeper and deeper. And it just tactically, I think he recognised it wasn't right, found those changes to go out and not just equalise in the game and take the point, but actually go and try and win it. And it's just refreshing the way he's operating. Bruno Lage was a manager who did some good stuff for us. I think, you know, we had some fantastic days in the Bruno Lage, but he never engaged with the fans. He never felt like one of us, and he never felt like he had a plan B to pull us out the fire. Whereas with Lopetegui, you feel like there's A, B, C, D, whatever he needs to do to be successful. He's a real student of the game. He's very, very intelligent. So I think we're incredibly lucky to have a manager with that pedigree.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to go on to, I picked out 3 players I want to talk about, but before we talk about that, I want to talk about the situation Wolves found themselves in the middle part of the first half, when somehow Wolves found themselves down to 10 men. Now, I've watched the game back. I geek myself out. I watch the games, I watch the goals, I watch as much as I can to try and study, understand. I just love Wolverhampton Wanderers, and I love watching it back, especially if we've won, and it's been fun the last few weeks. I still don't understand. Now, I know I've had a few sort of media referees come out with social media accounts, and they're entitled to their opinion, that have come out and defended the decision. I don't understand. The third, I didn't see him sprinting. I didn't see him particularly waving, beating his chest, screaming, shouting. I saw him trying to explain himself. I was getting pulled then, and then there was a flying tackle that went into him. And Alex, he's found himself with a second yellow card. Granted, the first one was a yellow card. It's one of those naughty ones, and you mentioned it earlier on. You're more likely to see a straight red for the first tackle than you are a booking for the second one. Alex, you watch football for a living, mate. Help! Please explain to the Wolves fan base why that is a second yellow.
It's bizarre. Like I said to you earlier on, if it had got sent off for the first challenge, I think it would have made more sense than getting sent off for those 2 cautions, because the second one is an absolute joke. You know, Neves and Moutinho have gone over just before him. If anything, they actually looked more aggressive, if you're going to quote it, than Mario Lemire did. I mean, he literally jogged over to the referee, kind of trying to make his point. And, you know, the ref wasn't even interested in listening to him. I don't think he was even within earshot, to be honest. Like, he must have been about 10 yards away. And straight away, he just kind of looked at him and just thought, sod it, I'm going to send him off. Got his card out and he's gone. And that's a problem with refereeing in this country for me. I mean, like, you don't often see the referees, they're not really prepared to listen to the players that much. And I know they get a lot of stick, and sometimes it obviously looks a very difficult job because there are players surrounding them and shouting at them, whatever. But a lot of the time, it's like, this is my way and my rules. And it's like they're a bunch of children playing a playground. You know, they're not children, they're grown adults. I think there needs to be a bit of kind of a bit of understanding and listen to them sometimes and not treat them like children, you know, who I can do what I can do what I want on the pitch, I'm going to book you sort of thing. I just think that needs to stop. And he was far too rash to get his card out and send him off. It's never a booking. If you give a booking for that, you're going to see that, you know, 10 times a game, you know, 100 times every Premier League like weekend. It's stupid. Lopetegui made a good point. He said, you know, first about the referees having a very difficult job, and that he understands mistakes can be made. But in that situation, the referee needs to take time and think about what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And in the game like that, that's a huge game. He makes that call. Wolves don't necessarily turn it around and win. You know, the odds suggest Wolves 1-0 down, going down 10 men, lose that game. All of a sudden, Wolves are right back in the relegation scrap, back in trouble. So he needs to take time and think about that decision and think about what he's doing. Because, you know, you can't review a yellow card, can you, and change it. So that's
it. I know we're going to sort of step away from the issue there. That's a really interesting point. I mean, we've got all these extra officials on VAR. There's a huge officiating team, and we're talking about the most lucrative league in world football with some of the best players. Isn't it about time we changed some of the, like, you should be able to review a second yellow card on VAR. You should be able to appeal a second yellow card. Is it just laziness? Are we thinking that's overcomplicated? I don't know why those things can't happen, especially, both of them. They've got VAR. Okay, can you review that again? Well, what did he do? And then if they're mic'd up, he has to explain. Not, I just fancied sending him off. It makes no sense.
Sorry, Ron. I think reviewing all yellow cards would probably
not all yellow cards. A second yellow card.
Second yellow, fair enough. I think that's
yellow.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's
second
fair.
Yellows, and also having the ability to appeal a ban via a second yellow.
Appealing's the big one. I definitely think an appeal should be brought in, because I was reading the rules today, and it's like you can't appeal a second yellow card. A red card by 2 bookings, and it makes no sense when you can appeal all the other red cards. You know, a lot of the time when you see players sent off for 2 bookings as well, there's one of them that's going to be a questionable yellow card, isn't there? So that's stupid, and you should be able to appeal it.
No, Nocky made a really excellent point. It may have been Tyler. I'd had a few Guinnesses Saturday, but we talked about that fans spend hundreds of pounds travelling the country, putting petrol in the car, train journeys, food, beers. I mean, it's an expensive day regardless. Yes, it's great times to be watching Wolves, but people pay top money for those days, and that could have been ruined. And like, people could have had bets on the game. People Wolves could have been back in like an immediate relic. Obviously, they're not out of trouble yet, but they could have been pulled right back amongst those teams. A rash decision like that for me, Nocky, I cannot understand. I mean, I don't want you to repeat what you said at the time, or change the colour that you and Tyler went to, but yeah, just your take on trying to understand what was happening with that decision.
It's just the consistency is the issue for me. I mean, apparently he's booked into his third one that ran across to him, but then when you see the Man City game the next day, there's 4 City players surrounding.
There was 6 and 1 got booked. What about the others?
Yeah, and then you've got Andy Robertson yesterday screaming. I mean, if you're a lip reader, you don't have to be much of a lip reader.
Something about a bad cough, wasn't it? I don't know.
And there's no conversation at all, and it's just all over. I think he was poor for both teams as well. I think on our winning goal, no one seems to have really picked up on it, but Sarabia absolutely launches the Southampton defender into the other one, and that allows us to break. So it's just the level of officiating in this country is awful. It's getting worse, and he gave 7 yellows and 1 red in the first half. The only person he booked in the second half was Neto, and he He wasn't even playing. It was just a bizarre. It was a bizarre officiating performance, but it's happening all the time. As far as VAR goes, I get that you do your appeals, you do all it. For me, I just don't think it works. I don't think we need it in the game. I think the game was better when it was fluid and you could keep the game moving forward. Goal line technology, I think it's a precise art when it works, so it needs to be in place. But I just think with VAR, you're just creating such an issue. I mean, when we got the winning goal, I think Tyler turned to me and said, I think he's going to review this for handball, and it just takes the shine off the moment.
Good job he didn't, because I'd gone. I don't know where I was.
Yeah, but I just think it's I just don't think we need it in the game. I think your referees are now using it as a crutch. The linos are using it as a crutch as well. They think, well, I'm not sure, I'll just leave it alone, and then VAR will pick it up if it's wrong. I just think it's taking such an element of that spontaneous moments out of the game, and I don't think it brings anything positive to it. You're getting people offside by a nipple's length, and it's just, what's the point?
I agree with that, Nocky, and I agree with the points you've made, but is it just us? Is it just in the Premier League that's got the issue with it? Because a lot of other leagues around the world use it and they don't have the issues. And when you watch the World Cup, it was fairly seamless the way it was used. I think our referees are just making a bit of a meal of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we've got a real arrogance with our officials in this country that we're right, and that's all there is to it. But it's not being used correctly. I think we all know that. But you look at Scotland now; they're not happy with it. It just doesn't. For me, maybe I'm just old school. I
love the fan point, because I agree with that 100%. It really annoys me when you see a goal going, you see the celebrations, and then all of a sudden you see VAR checking goal, and you're like, oh, for God's sake, here we go again.
That's it, Alex, because obviously you do it for a job. You go week in, week out. You write about Wolves mainly. You write about other teams. Obviously, I get some media work as well, but I still have to pay my way in terms of when I'm going home and away as a fan. But those times and those journeys, I travel like me on Saturday. Me and Nocky and Tyler, you get that moment. Do you remember we were at Southampton and we scored that goal when we're down to 10 men and we won the game? We go for those moments, those games, and those experiences, for that second, those few seconds of joy and ecstasy that football can give you. Obviously, it's the day out and the football and the banter and the singing and the beer. Whatever football is to you, go and enjoy it. But we all go for that moment of ecstasy, and it is taking that away. And this is what I mean. I think regardless of what's going to go on, it's here to stay. I just think they need to water it down, because at the moment it's ruining. Our group chats say some terrible things about it that are unrepeatable. But it's whilst protecting the brand, it's ruining the game.
It's not just VAR though, is it? I mean, we were at the house probably 10, 11 hours. Southampton, and all of that potentially was to watch a referee absolutely decimate a football match inside the first 25 minutes. And you don't go just to watch your team win. If you did, you wouldn't follow Wolves anywhere, would you? Because we know how it's probably going to end up most of the time, especially I think we've won 2 away games in a year or whatever it is. You go because you want to support your team and you want an even playing field. And when the referee's doing stuff like that early in the game, he potentially could have absolutely ruined that football match. And there was no need for it. It was a game that was, Alex said earlier, was a game that was absolutely gigantic for both clubs. And he tore it to pieces in the first sort of 25 minutes. And it's happening all the time. The best referees for me are the ones that you don't even remember the name when you come out of the ground. They should have absolutely minimum impact in the game. But how many times you come out of football matches and you're talking about the referee, you're talking about mistakes, you're talking about decisions or the VAR, and there was, over the weekend, I think they forgot to draw the lines on one of the games.
The excuses for human error. Now, we've all got different jobs. We all make mistakes. Your job in the VAR hub, you're checking for fouls. You're drawing those lines. The technology is there to help you. I find it almost unforgivable that there's human error in those things. I just want, obviously, we could talk about this all night, but there's one thing. I've lost it now, so I think Peter mentioned it. This is a really good one that I'd like to see for the future. Peter Breakwell asks, refs need to come out at the end of games and explain. Now, I personally think, we've talked about this before, I think that all comms should be available for the clubs, and the comms during the VAR decisions should be audible for everybody. So if anyone wants to listen back, I think there's a real loss of trust. I'm being really polite. The bias that I believe that I see, it's hard to palate in some games. So I think the first step of recovery on that is being more transparent. Let's hear what you're talking about. I want to hear your explanation. You're officiating my game and making a massive decision that could completely decimate this game and ruin our day. We obviously, as Noki said, you're not going for the win, but you want it to be treated correctly and fairly. And if you get an explanation, then you get more transparency and you bring back some of the trust. You might not accept the decision, but you will understand and say, well, I get what he's saying and I just have to accept it.
You have two options this, Ryan. You could either do what they do in rugby and have the ref mic'd up and telling us what's going on. You can hear the ref and the VAR discussing when these decisions come up, and you can understand the exact reason why someone's been sent off. So he could have to say, Mario Lemina has been sent off because of this, this, and this. That one is an option. Or the other option is to do a flash interview after the game where the referee gets asked about the 3 or 4 topics, the big decisions that he made, and in 5 minutes, and that's that, and then he goes away. But at least then you get answers, and you don't have to contact the PGMOL for the answers and things like that, and then it creates this big circus. If the referee just came out and explained why they've taken this decision, then that would be the end of that, wouldn't it? But as we saw with the VAR scandals, the one at Anfield and obviously the ones of this weekend, they wouldn't be able to explain that, would they? So
well, this is it. I mean, I'm not going to try and lead you down the garden path here, Noki, but you can give a diplomatic answer as I'd expect you to do so. But why can't players why do players and clubs get fined and managers get fined when they criticise referees? I think Lee Mason and Nuno, and I felt like refereeing went badly against us after that happened. I believe it was Lee Mason. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but I think it was Mason that knew.
Lee Mason.
Why aren't they mic'd up? Why can't we hear what they say? And why don't we get to hear what they say afterwards? And why is there not a clear explanation? Noki, time to be diplomatic.
The honest answer is I don't know, because all of those things should be happening. There's no accountability. You'll see a referee make a decision that he's dubious. They'll pull him on it and they'll send him back to the Championship, because apparently football in the Championship isn't as important in the Premier League, so the PGMOL thing. I just think if you had that level of accountability, if you had that explanation, you might not agree with it, but at least you could say, all right, he's fronted up to the mistakes that have been made. Let's learn from it. But I think some of them are almost indefensible. I mean, there was Thomas Soucek tipping one round a post for West Ham.
It's a good save, to be fair.
It's a brilliant save, but how can you not give a penalty for that? And if they were to come out and say, you know what, I've seen it back. Yeah, I got that one wrong. You wouldn't be happy about it, but you'd say, all right, he's held his hands up, he's made mistakes, because teams get relegated, managers get sacked on the back of these kind of decisions, and there's absolutely no accountability for it. So I think they should be mic'd up. I think we should hear the VAR discussions. If they're not going to be interviewed after the game, there should be a statement produced from the referee, like a risk assessment or something, just to say, this is why I did what I did, these are why the decisions were made, and this is how I came to those conclusions, because at least you've got something to come back on. We've had nothing about Lemina. We were assuming at the time it was foul and abusive language, because from the stands you're assuming that's why he would be sent off, but there's still been nothing from the referee to say, this is exactly why I sent him off, and that's where you need that accountability. If he comes out and says, look, he came at me, I felt he was aggressive, he was too vocal, okay, I'll accept that. You're going to give me a yellow card for that, that's fine. But by not saying anything, you're almost condemning yourself, really, and sort of saying, yeah, I got that one wrong.
Well, that's what Lopetegui was told, that Lemina was too aggressive and said something to the referee when he went over.
10 yards away, isn't he? He's 10 yards away when he books.
It's ridiculous. If you book him, you book Moutinho and Neves as well.
Yeah, agreed.
So, well, I hope that everyone's got it off their chest a little bit. I mean, as I mentioned before, I do have 2 ex-Premier League referees. I am trying to secure a pre-record show with those guys. I think that'd be really exciting in current times. Whether they'd want to talk to me after my current comments recently, I wasn't criticising them, but I was certainly criticising their colleagues. I think it'd be great to have that kind of show. So I am still working on that, so please bear with me. Moving away from VAR and a decision that, for me, galvanised the team, that brought us back together, that made us more determined, and probably gave us a result we got more from than winning 4 or 5-0. The changes in the game that Lopetegui made, Noki. I mean, the three I've picked out, obviously, well, 3 of the 5 subs, but João Gomes, Adama Traore, and Diego Costa. A couple of weeks ago, Nocky, when Diego Costa was in the squad but left out for Jimenez, we all kind of thought that's probably it for Costa now. We're not going to see him again. I thought he was a bit unlucky. I thought he was excellent away at Villa before he got his injury, but that's the kind of impact, Nocky, we're looking from Diego Costa. That's the player we signed. Probably only going to have 5 or 6 months left at Wolves, but a brave sub when Jimenez is probably in a better run of form, but he did exactly what the team needed when he came on.
Yeah, and it was exactly what we needed to bring on as well. We've had the conversation about Cunha. Is he a central striker? Is he a wide attacker? I still think he's a wide attacker, and we looked so much more balanced when Costa came on. He was being his normal horrible self, wasn't he? He was annoying people. He was making sure the elbows were high. He was thumping into people. He was getting into positions. He nearly scored. It was a good block, but he was heavily involved in the goal. It just seemed to give us a bit of a lift. And with Adama as well, I think Adama's looking in really good form at the moment, and he's causing problems again. He's involved in the goal. And if you look, the first goal we scored is a result of 2 substitutes, and then the third substitute scores the winner. So absolutely spot on. But yeah, I think Costa's a good player. He's not going to score us goals. He might not score a goal in his whole Wolves career, but he can give you something a bit different. And I think coming on when he did, I think that's probably better than looking to start him, because I think starting him, I think the game's going to bypass him. But when you bring him on and you give him 15, 20 minutes to really get amongst it and get into him, you'll see the best of him, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alex, I thought Costa I thought he was done. I thought he was toast. But as Nocky said, he did exactly what was required then, and he made such a huge difference. It's not just him of what he can do with his intelligence, because he's an intelligent footballer, but it's that desire, it's that snot, it's those guts, it's his presence. They fear him because anything could literally happen with him, and having that option on there that you trust. I mean, I think the manager said he's done this before. He's used to this kind of thing. So for me, it's a brave sub, but a brilliant one.
Yeah, I mean, I have to hold my hands up and say, when I saw him stripped and ready to come on, I was a bit like, oh, why is he coming on? Because, he's not like he's 34 years old. He's not the guy who's going to be able to break in behind the Southampton defence when, Wolves are outnumbered in the second half. And, but he, like you said, he was horrible, and he was very, very effective. He held the ball up really well. And it was key against that young Southampton defence, because we forget they've got quite a young team, really. Southampton had as well. So he was able to get hold of it and bring Sarai, who I didn't think was as effective off the left, but he was able to bring him and Adama Traore into the game, and it was absolutely key. I mean, in addition to when Wolves equalised, had that kind of ball, he ran behind to get that João Gomes ball and put it across Sarabia, and a better ball, and Wolves would have scored there. So
I think he might have been offside, but definitely get your point on that. To be making those positions. In those right positions, it's a goal. But I'm delighted, and I know it doesn't sound like a huge ask, but I would love to see Costa score at Molineux before his time's out. A match-winning goal, just disappearing into the South Bank somewhere, top off, doing what? Oh, it'd be wonderful, because regardless of what you thought he's bringing, he's been good fun. He has been good fun, and you see him in the training video. Oh, this isn't a guy been jogging around. He's got himself in shape. He's not going to be quick anymore. He's intelligent. He hasn't lost that hunger. If you've got that desire to win, you've always got that aggression, that snarling. Earlier on in the season, I can't remember the game when the keeper was time wasting, and then he's give the ball back to him, and there was just brilliant.
Forest, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Before I start writing poetry about Diego Costa and how much I love what he brings, the second impact man, Adama Traore, Nocky. Actually, we'll start with you with this one, Alex. I love Adama Traore. I love what he brings. He's just fun, isn't he? He's good to watch. When he gets going, he's unplayable for any fullback in the world. And again, he's come on and he's helped change a game for Wolves.
I think there's 3 members of the Adama fan club in here tonight, isn't there? Yeah, he is. He's been very good since Lopetegui came in my opinion. Mainly as an impact sub, but the difference is now, I don't think he's pigeonholed as a substitute. Like he's obviously coming off the bench more often than not, but when there's 5 subs and he's coming on so early, he actually clearly feels part of it and involved. He's not just coming on for the last 10, 15 minutes. And I think in a lot of the games he has come on, either at half time or 30, 35 minutes to go, and he's got a good chunk of the match. And he's been so effective. I mean, he started a little bit sloppily, actually, I thought, against Southampton. Some of his first touches weren't that great, but once he got into his stride, they couldn't live with him. He's so effective in this league, absolutely superb. And, you know, when he plays like this, it kind of reminds me of 2019-20 Adama, when he was absolutely unplayable 5-6 months that season. That is a £60 million player, what we saw back then. So, yeah, if he can, I mean, he's getting numbers now as well. If he can keep adding these numbers to his game, you just hope that he's, you know, Wolves can somehow, I don't think it's likely at this stage, but somehow persuade him to sign a new contract. I think they've obviously got a better chance of doing that with Lopetegui on board, because you can see that rapport between the two. In that he really rates him as a coach, obviously knows him from when he was a kid. So yeah, I can't say enough positive things about Adama Traore. I still think if he is to leave Wolves on a free transfer or get a top club at the end of the season, because most top managers will look at him and think, on a free transfer, I'm not going to get a much better impact sub than this. So yeah, he's a top player, and I'm glad to see he's doing well again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it speaks volumes, Nocky, about Adama Traore, that we always say he's worth being on the pitch because he drags two people towards him. And for me, he's one of the main reasons why Wolves were so good in the second half, because he attracts the attention of two people. And all of a sudden, then you're like, how have Wolves got more possession? How do Wolves look the better team when they've been a man down for like the last 15 minutes of the first half? And then that's the impact this guy can have, even his pure presence, because they know what he can do. But Nocky, part of the Adama fan club, a brilliant introduction. And as Alex said, he got going, and that right-hand side was his own, and he was having a great time.
He just frightens the life out of people. I mean, you saw it when he came on against Liverpool. They visibly drop. You can see teams drop 5 or 6 yards because they're worried about that ball in behind, they're worried about his pace. And he's fun, he's exciting, he gets you off his seat. There's not too many players in the world like him at the moment. And he's just a player who can create something or nothing. I think the most important thing is that you can see Lopetegui's improving him. You can see there's elements to his game now. He's almost slowing down. He's looking for that pass. He did it against Liverpool when he slowed down and found the ball. He's just got a bit of an intelligence about him now that we haven't really seen since, as Alex said, when he was linking up with Jimenez and he was putting those balls regularly on the penalty spot for Jimenez to finish. And I think if he can get back anywhere near the kind of form that we know he can achieve, and he feels like Lopetegui's improving him, there might still be an outside chance we can get him to sign. I'm kind of with you. I doubt he will. But if that's the case, we've just got to enjoy him for the last few months because he is entertaining. And I think he's very, very close now with Podence for who kind of gets that spot. I think they're pretty neck and neck. And the way he's playing at the minute, you certainly wouldn't argue with him starting games.
Well, again, just going to Lopetegui, moving away from the impact players, Lopetegui looks to improve everybody. And I know Adama doesn't, unless it was at Man City, he doesn't really celebrate like a normal, like I'd expect a footballer to do. But since he's been making an impact for Lopetegui, the guy is loving it again. The passion, the arms out. I'm seeing him proper pumping when he's having an impact in games, and that's great to see. And I think Wolves, Alex will probably correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they'd offered him like a 3 or 4 year deal on 60 grand a week. I don't know how correct that is, Alex, but I believe that was rumoured what was talked about. But there's an interesting question actually later on that's been forwarded on that. But yeah, fantastic. And I just want to enjoy him while he's here. And if he does move on, I hope it's not to a Premier League team, because that's not going to be fun for anybody. You are listening and watching to episode 53 of the Wolves Report with Birmingham Live's Wolves correspondent Alex Dickin, club captain and midfield general Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester, currently analysing the Southampton game where it was Southampton 1, Wolves 2, and going through the impact players. The main man that made an impact, João Gomes, he ain't coming here, is he? So, João Gomes, Alex, sorry, we'll start with you on this, Nocky. What a signing. What an impact. What did he do to that away end? What did he do to my shins? Where's my spare house keys? It's all gone. It's all gone in that away end. What an introduction. I talked about it earlier on to Alex, but some of his passing, his recoveries, we're kind of remembering the goal. But, I mean, we talked about Dawson's debut, but Gomez has gone one better, hasn't he, Nocky?
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, so I don't want to get too excited, but he looks a player, doesn't he? I mean, even if you take the goal out of it, the ball he played for Costa when he probably was offside, just intelligent play, the way he got himself into the position for the goal. He's fierce, he goes into tackles, he he's got an intelligence on the ball. He can play, and clearly he can finish as well. So, and I think he's already an instant hero because of the determination he had to come to Wolves and the way he said, "No, I've shook on that. I'm coming to Wolves. That's the end of it." And he did, and he came. And there was a great picture of him with the emotion that hit him after the goal, where he's crying and all those sort of things.
Wonderful
fan base, and he took it well. You know, he looks a really, really good player, and we've got real options in that midfield now. So we've got time where he can settle and he can develop and he can come through. And then when he's ready, I think he'll start games and absolutely dominate games. He just looks like a player Wolves fans are going to take to. You know, even for the reasons that I mentioned before, without them, he just looks a player that us as a fan base will enjoy. We've always liked that kind of high energy, high impact player who can score goals and gets box to box, and he just seems to have that about him. So he looks like he could be real shrewd business for us. Obviously, it's early days. You don't want to get too excited, but all the signs are positive.
Let's get excited. Let's enjoy it. I think Alex, I can see him chomping at the bit to wax about João Gomes. Alex, how did that away end look and that goal up from the press box on Saturday?
Oh, incredible. To be fair, his first shot was awful, wasn't it? But the second one was absolutely superb. Top corner on your debut. It doesn't get any better. I don't know why he ran to the left corner. I'd have gone to that corner in front of the Wolves fans.
It's probably a good job he didn't.
You live and learn. Yeah, he was superb. So good. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, everything he did when he came on was really tidy. He was winning the ball back in midfield. He was actually part of a press on the Southampton midfield that they won the ball back for him to go and score that goal. So he looks like he's got everything to be a top class central holding midfield player in this league. Really, really good. Even, you know, some of the passes he was picking, again, superb, really good player. I loved watching him, and I'm hoping we'll see plenty more of that between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we'll talk about this with the discussion, but as people are talking about in here as well, Wolves have got genuine options now. And one thing I wasn't expecting from João Gomes was to get on the edge of the box and score a winning goal when you're a man down in the last few minutes away at Southampton. But what a start! If he's technically gifted, he might play a little bit higher up, and instead of playing as a 4, he might play up a little bit higher. Who knows? But it was an incredible debut, and as Nocky said, the guy's won the fans over from the beginning, and he's told the manager, "No, I've told the manager, I'm sticking to my word." That's going to buy you love from fans. And he comes and Wolves do that incredible launch video, and the whole free João Gomes was brilliant. It was really good fun on social media. He seems like a really humble guy, and then to be emotionally in bits after scoring the winning goal. I mean, where do you want your statue, mate? Where do you want your tattoo? It's just, honestly, what a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful player to come on.
We seem to be really good at signing these personalities as well. There's a special kind of player that we want. And I think on Instagram, I think it was, or one of the social networking things, he was sat there the next day on his birthday with what I'm assuming is his girlfriend, with a little cake and a candle in it. You know, they just seem to bring in these players who understand how important it is to play football and really appreciate what they're doing. You can see it with Neves. They're all real kind of family men, and it's something that you can buy into as a fan. And he's going to be big for us. You can tell, and he's going to be really popular.
Says a lot about him as well. You know, 21 years old at the time, to have a more lucrative offer on the table from Lyon and turn it down. I mean, there's been a lot of good Brazilian midfielders who've gone to Lyon and developed, like Juninho, Bruno Guimaraes, Paquetá as well, who's gone to West Ham. So that's obviously a well-trodden path. But to have already shook on something with Lopetegui, giving them their word and then honour that as well, it says a lot about him as a character. And that is one thing that Lopetegui's insisted on his whole time here, that he speaks to the players before they come over, and he gets a feel from those people, which I think is obviously a very good idea. And they look like they've landed on a gem of a guy there, and he looks a good player as well.
Absolutely. As someone said there's lots of love for Joe. There certainly is. Fantastic start. Might be starting the weekend, who knows, with obviously suspension. Moving away from the game now, it was, for me, I mean, just finishing off on that, as I mentioned to you earlier on, Alex, Wolves will get way more from winning 2-1 with 10 men than they would have won 4 or 5-0. What that will do to an already squad that's starting to believe and love their manager is absolutely huge. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to win 4 or 5-0 on Saturday, but for an away game with 10 men to score the winning goal with a player on his debut, it doesn't get much better than that. moving away from that game and onto another topic that's been talked about quite a lot on social media, particularly on Wolves social media, is the atmosphere at Molineux recently. Now, we've talked about several reasons. Obviously, COVID, that's going to take things away. For whatever it seems to, unless it's probably one of the two clubs, it's had a huge impact. No disrespect to Nuno, the last 12 months weren't pretty, wasn't a lot of goals. For quite a lot of the time under Bruno, it wasn't pretty, there wasn't a lot of goals. There wasn't really a lot going on, a lot of excitement, and Wolves just seems to have lost its zest and its spite. However, in the last game, it did look better. Now, there's been a couple of things going on social media. There's a fans group, the old gold pack, like a fan-driven thing that I've seen, and they're trying to get things going. People have talked about flags. People talked about banners. I like it. I will absolutely back anyone that's trying to make a difference. It might not be for everybody, but you know what? If a group of people are trying to make a difference to make Molineux a better place, and if that's via looks to get the atmosphere going, whether it's for other things, I don't mind. But Nocky, just your take on that. I mean, I think you can follow the old gold pack on Twitter. They're doing a few things. I think they were doing some leaflets a couple of weeks ago. I believe they might have some banners out for the next game. But anything fan-led, for me, people trying to make a difference, for me, I'm right behind it. It might not be for everybody, but if someone's trying to make a difference, I'm all over it.
Yeah, well done to them for trying to do something. And you know, the club are trying to jump on board with it as well, making a few changes. But I think the reality is that the atmosphere will be governed by the performance and what people are seeing on the pitch. If you're not scoring goals, which we haven't done over the last few seasons, you're not going to get that reaction from the supporters. And there is absolutely responsibility for the supporters to lift the team and be vocal. But at the same time, they need something to get them there. They need something to get them off their seat. And if you're watching tepid, boring football where you don't feel like you're going anywhere and you're not scoring goals, the reality is you're not going to have much of a noise in there. So I think under Lopetegui, you will see an improvement in that now. I think you'll see a better Molineux because we feel the pressure's off it a little bit now, even though we're still in a bad situation. We're much better than where we are before. And I think there's more belief that we can stay up. And I think when every point isn't a prisoner the way it has been the last few games, it's now more of you can start enjoying your football again. And if we can beat Bournemouth, you'll see that atmosphere lift again. And the flag's great. You know, anything you want to do is fantastic. But predominantly, if the football's better, the noise is going to be better for me.
Yeah, absolutely. The two sit hand in hand. Better football, more goals means a better atmosphere. But there'll be times when the games are poor because you can't play well every week. And the fans are the difference. And quite often in games under Nuno, Alex, the fans were the difference. There was a tight game. Wolves would go a goal behind. And it wasn't always pretty, but they stuck with their team. And these guys now, old goal pack, are trying to make that difference as well to doing it. And obviously, you see sitting from the press box what a difference the atmosphere is now to what it was before.
Yeah, huge. I mean, the atmosphere last week against Liverpool, the week before, I should say, was incredible. That's the best I've seen in Molineux since pre-COVID. It was unbelievable from start to finish. To be fair, even before the first goal went in, I think that was because fans could obviously see that the team were getting after them and pressing Liverpool and actually, you know, desperately like trying to score the first goal. How often the Wolves start fast in the game? You know, it's a very rare thing. So that helps. It's always good, like Nocky said, it's always going to come down to the football and how well the team plays. You know, fans aren't going to be enthusiastic if they're drawing 0-0 at home to Fulham. That's natural. But the thing that I've really liked is that over the last few, since Wolves got promoted to the Premier League, when you think of the games, the big atmospheres, they're always in those big games against the big clubs where Wolves were kind of punching above their weight and getting those results. And obviously Liverpool again is another one of those. But those are the games that really bring out the best in Molineux. But yeah, it would be nice to see that replicated, I suppose, in the kind of normal Premier League fixtures. The likes of Bournemouth, Southampton at home, that sort of thing. And yeah, anything fans can do to get behind the team and create a better atmosphere for those games would be, I'm sure, well received by everyone.
Absolutely, and credit to those doing that. I mean, it may not be for everybody, but it may be for a lot of people. And if it makes any noise and helps the team and the stadium in one bit, because I mean, I've spoke to people at the club. I know the players prefer a better atmosphere, and I know they're vocal as well about what they can improve. So, well done to those who are getting involved with that and trying to make a difference. Massive respect. I know me and Nocky and Tyler are making some noise, banging off the back row at the weekend. So we did our bit. I'm not sure we can do that at Molineux, and I think Alex can bang his pen in the press box. But yeah, credit to those doing it. Anything
Get
to
sent
improve
off for aggression pen waving if you
yeah, you're too aggressive with his pen, Alex. That's his player ratings, isn't it? But moving on to some questions. But before we do, you are watching and listening to episode 53 of the Wolves Report with Birmingham Live Wolves correspondent Alex Dickin, club captain and midfield general Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester. I had a few questions this week. Couldn't get them all on, as I do before each show. I'll put a tweet out and try and get as many as I can. I've had quite a few this week on a few platforms as well, so we'll try and go through as many as we can. Thank you for your involvement in the show. Chris Worsfold asks, Moutinho, Lopetegui seems to start him, but it rarely works well from the team. What should his role be now? Well, that one's got you written all over it, Alex.
I saw this question earlier, actually. I wanted it, so it's interesting, actually, because we were speaking to Lopetegui last week about kind of the more holding midfield players, the deeper midfield players, speaking about Lamina, obviously João Gomes. And he was speaking specifically about Lamina, but mentioned that João Gomes can also do that job, mentioned that Ruben Neves and Matheus Nunes could do that job, but he didn't seem to kind of put Moutinho in that bracket. So I think we can quite clearly see that Lopetegui now sees him playing slightly further forward, where there is less emphasis on his legs, basically, to run and cover the ground, where he can use his brain more. And as we know, he's got a phenomenal footballing brain. So I think the more, when we see Moutinho now between the end of the season, I think it will be more in that advanced midfield role when Wolves are playing a 4-3-3 system, and they always have the one guy just slightly in front of the other two. I think that suits him best now. I don't think I would have said that a year ago, but I do think now, watching this Wolves team, that does suit him, because he's intelligent, he picks up good space, he links well with Sarabia, links well with Podence, the striker. So I think that's it. But I think it's going to be probably a bit part role in terms of starting maybe one game in three and coming off the bench here and there. I don't think he's going to be one of the first names on the team sheet anymore. Not now they've got Lamina, João Gomes, obviously Sarabia, who can play centrally, so Podence, who can play centrally. They've got a lot of options in that position now, I think. So, yeah, I think it's probably a case of Moutinho, 36 now, being phased out.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's fine. I like him as an impact player, and I never thought I would say that, but when I think Wolves dropped off a little bit, but against Liverpool, when it was like Liverpool had the ball, that changed for Moutinho on. That measured press, that intelligence of being in the right place at the right time in his positioning. He looks like a closer now, and I'm using like modern terminology, Alex. Like, he looks like a closer, doesn't he? He looks like someone that's going to get in and do that job for probably 20, 25 minutes, where his engine will last that long. So yeah. Right then, this next one is for you, Nocky. And the good question. This is from Ted. Good evening, Ted. It now seems like that Raul doesn't fit the system. How concerned are we that sufficient goals will arrive? Costa 0, Kuna 0, and obviously Raul 0 as well. Over to you, Nocky.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite vocal that I still thought we needed a new centre forward coming in the window. We didn't get one, obviously, but what we have said is that he's improving players, he's improving everybody, looks a little bit better, and I don't think we're quite so reliant on the strikers now. We've got goals from midfield, we've got players who can score from different areas now. And I think I still think there's a player in Jimenez, if we can get him anywhere near his best. We know how good he can be, we know he can finish, so there's still opportunities there to get those players scoring again. But when you look at Costa, he's not really here to score goals. He will affect games, which he did. So we're not completely reliant on the centre forward anymore. We have got goals from the wide attacking areas, and if you look at our goals returned since Lopetegui came in, it's a lot better than it was before he got here. So he's clearly got a system that can score us goals. So I'm not as worried as I was. I would have liked another striker, and I've got to be honest. But
five goals in the last two games, so
exactly
working.
3 against Liverpool. So yeah, we've got goals.
To 8, 15, so.
We've got goals in the team now, haven't we? So they're not going to come naturally from a centre forward the way that you used to be back in the Bull and Much days. If they didn't score, no one did. Now it's more of an emphasis on the midfielders getting forward and attacking from the wide areas. So I don't think Raul and Costa are a huge issue for us. I think we'll spread the goals around.
Excellent. Thank you for your contribution and support of the Wolves Report, as always, Ted. Get through these questions quickly because we're getting on for 50 minutes now. Andy Hipkins asks, season ends tomorrow, player of the season, top three. Right, I want you to give me your top three, quick fire. Alex, off you go.
God.
Yeah, that's a bit on the spot, isn't it?
That is. You go first, Ryan.
I'll go first. Well, first of all, will be Ruben Neves.
Yeah.
I think he has been Mr. Consistent throughout the season. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. And then this is where it gets tricky. I'm like, I would probably, at the moment, I'd probably put Podence in there because that spell he had at the start, the points that he won and the impact when Lopetegui came, I think he was really, really important. I know he's had that, I don't know what kind of injury it is, and I hope he's back soon, but I think he definitely deserves a mention.
You're struggling now.
And then it gets really tough now, doesn't it? Because you're looking around, who else has had a massive impact this season? I'd probably going to give it to Bueno because those breakthrough games he had, I don't really think, I know we probably say now 8-0 is probably slightly better, but that spell of games when I think Bueno played 8 or 9 games on the bounce, something like that, he was very, very good. So that's my left field third one. You've had some time to think. I've bought you some time now. You put me under pressure. So back to you, Alex.
Exactly the same, Matt. I just take.
Oh, you stinker!
I just take Brent out and put Gonzalo Guedes instead.
Spiteful that is.
No, yeah, I can't. The first two stand out for themselves. You know, I mean, Neves has been fantastic this season. He carried Wolves. I actually thought he was playing really well, even though everyone around him was having an absolutely pathetic season. You know, up until November. Podence spell at the start of the season did okay. Been probably the best performer under Lopetegui until the last 2 or 3 games. I think he scored 3 goals in that time. So yeah, he my second choice. Bueno, very good in those 6-7 games before the World Cup break. Did well when Wolves came back. For breakout wise, I'd go Bueno. I think Jose Sarr's improved and had good moments this season again. But I keep comparing Jose Sarr to Jose Sarr of last season. He's just not been as good, but he was never going to be as good, was he? I mean, he had a freak season. All the stats said he was never going to be as good. So, Sarr would be probably the fourth. Sarr or Bueno.
Nocky?
Obviously, it's Neves by an absolute country mile. And then Podence, because he's top goal scorer. I've quite liked Semedo this season. I know he's not been everyone's cup of tea, but I think he's had a decent season so far. And yeah, the only other one you've got is Bueno. I don't think we've had anyone else who's been particularly outstanding. In fact, I think if you take Neves and Podence out, I don't think there really is a third. I think we're just kind of clutching because we've been asked to find 3. I don't think you look at anyone and think.
Yeah, Andy Hipkins, that's a stinker of a question, trying to ruin the pundits on our show.
Did you watch Semedo against Brighton and Crystal Palace?
Yeah, I know, but that's, I think generally over the course of the season, I think he's done. I think
he's improved.
He's improved.
When Semedo makes a mistake, he makes a proper mistake.
Oh, he does.
They all end up in the net, don't they?
He's very, very unlucky in that. Thank you, Andy.
I don't think he's a better player than he gets credit for. I don't think
he's a good player.
He's a tidy, quick player, and he can find a pass, but he does tend to, when he does drop one, it does tend to end up in the back of the net, unfortunately.
As if one question from Andy. He's got 2, so he's going to drop another stink on us. This was another good question. Discussion point. Do you give Adama he's $100,000 a week to be an impact player? Does he have a point when he sees the likes of Trincao and Guedes earn more but fail at Molineux? That is a brilliant question. Alex, you can start with that one.
You can use 2. Well, there's 2 points to that question. $100K a week would probably put him amongst Wolves' top earners, I'd imagine. So I do think Adama deserves to be in that bracket. He deserves to get what the likes of Raul Jimenez, João Moutinho get, because even since that 2019-20 season, you look at the following season, 2020-21, when they're poor under Nuno, Adama, final 15 games that season was absolutely key in keeping Wolves comfortably above the relegation zone. Without him, they'd have been in trouble. He obviously went out on loan last season. That wasn't his fault. That was the club's fault for agreeing to that awful deal. And the second point I was going to make is, first is he's worth the money. Second is that what's an impact sub now? Because, I think the subs are probably as important as the players that are starting the game. The way it's set up and the way Lopetegui's using them. 5 subs, gives you a hell of a lot of options. So I think we're probably going to see I think we're almost seeing the end of it being, players in times gone by would have been fuming to find out on the bench. And I'm sure Adama would have been angry to find out he's on the bench. But I don't think it's a big deal now. I think he's still massively part of this team, if he's on the bench or if he's starting. I think players that are on the bench are really important, to be honest. So I would give him that money if that's what he wanted.
I don't think 100k is a lot of money either.
No, it's not for a player like
in terms of footballing terms. And if you were to get rid of him and you need to replace him, it's going to cost you a lot more than the equivalent of £100,000 a week, and you're going to have to pay that player wages as well. I think for a player can do what he can do and the impact he can make, if it's 100k to keep the squad moving in the direction that it is and keeps improving under Lopetegui, I'd do it without any question personally.
Absolutely. And while we're on the subject of Adama Traore, let's move smoothly into the Bournemouth game, where there's more tactical decisions to be made for Lopetegui. So, Alex, what changes? We've got one enforced change, but what changes are you going to make for the game on Saturday, where Wolves face Bournemouth at Molineux?
I think everyone's looking at João Gomes thinking that he should come into the 11 now for Lamina, but personally, João Gomes, he's not played since November properly. He's only played like 20 minutes since then. So it's a massive ask to bring him into the starting 11 and say you've got to play 60 minutes. So I don't think he'll start. I don't think he'll play Moutinho in that role either. I reckon we could see Sarabia there as kind of the more advanced midfield player. I'm hoping it's going to be the end of Matheus Nunes on the left wing. I think we need to get him back inside what he does best. And then, it just depends on how kind of attacking he wants to go, whether it's a Adama right wing, Podence if he's fit, left wing, and Cunha up top, or whether it's Cunha left wing and Costa up top as a focal point, or Jimenez. He's got so many options in those attacking areas, to be fair. But, I mean, if I was to hazard a guess, I reckon because of the opposition, and we're expecting them to obviously come in and not venture forward too much in terms of sitting back and things. So I reckon Sarabia is a 10 as the most advanced midfield player. Adama will start, and I'm going to go, if fit, Podence on the left. If not, Cunha and Raul Jimenez up top. I think Raul's probably got more chance of starting again than Costa.
Goodness me, Nocky, can you beat that?
No, I think you're right about Gomez. A lot of people will be clamouring for him to start. I don't think he starts the game. I'd love to see us go 4-2-3-1 and bring Neves and Nunes back together in midfield and then play three behind, maybe Costa. Just because I think he's the sort of player that would relish this sort of game and he'd cause them all kinds of trouble.
Well, sorry, just jumping in with Costa there, Nocky, that's a really good point, because if as expected, Bournemouth sit deep, you're going to need that person as well to link the play, as Tyler says, and you say, to feed the butterflies, the three in behind with the movement in front. Yeah, so Costa's a great shout, Nocky.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to do it. I think he'll go 4-3-3. I could see Moutinho dropping into the midfield three. I think it'll be Cunha, Podence, Sarabia. I don't think he'll start Adama. I think you'll see Adama coming in from the bench. So Podence is fit. My suspicion is he'll go with that. And I think he'll go Neves, Nunes and Moutinho in midfield. That's what I think he'll do. But you never know with Lopetegui. He picks a team to win a football match, doesn't he? So it could be
when I was speaking to Alex earlier on, we said exactly this. Alex does this for a job. We talk about Wolves and follow them home and away. We have no idea what the manager's going to do. And if we don't know, how on earth are Bournemouth going to know? It's every week you're like, I mean, against Liverpool, 4-4-2, with Nunes left-hand side, nobody saw that coming. But it worked.
Nobody saw it until 2 minutes into the game. Because, I mean, even the 11 looked like a 4-3-3, didn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic options. I'm thinking, I don't think he'll start Gomez. I do think we'll see more of a 3-2-1. I don't know the severity of Podence's injury, whether he was touch and go, whether it was a whether he had a bug, whether it was like he had a knock. Alex,
it was a groin injury. It's not supposed to be serious, but again, you don't know whether he's going to keep him out. Because I remember, was it a toe injury last season? He ended up keeping him out for about 3 or 4 weeks. So yeah.
But we have multiple options, and it's great that we've actually got a squad we can deal with these kind of things now. So really looking forward to it. Massive opportunity. Wolves will be on the front foot. They'll be at high pressing from the off. I quite often tweet out like predicted 11s. Absolutely no idea anymore. Previous managers, you had a bit of a pattern and you saw their favourites This manager does not care. He does what he thinks is best for the game. You have been watching episode 53 of the Wolves Report with Birmingham Live's Wolves correspondent Alex Dickin, club captain, midfield general Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester. We're at the end of the show where we usually do our predictions. So, Alex, you're the professional. Your first score prediction and your score for Wolverhampton Wanderers v Bournemouth.
First score, okay. I'm going to go Matthias Cunha to get off the mark, 2-0.
Oh, yes. Every week I say that and I've got to keep doing it. Nocky, prediction for the weekend.
Just want to put it out there that I said 2-1 against Southampton, by the way.
Did you? No one likes to show off, Nocky.
I think it's going to be tight. I'm going to go 2-1 to Wolves. Sarabia.
We'll take that. We'll take any kind of win. Well, it's my show, and I've certainly got to blow Wolves trumpet. So I'm going to go with Wolves 3, Bournemouth 0, and Matthias Cunha to finally get off the mark. Thank you for joining us for episode 53 of the Wolves Report. Thank you to Birmingham Live's Alex Dickin. Thank you to club captain, midfield general Mark Knock. I'm Ryan Lester. Up the Wolves.